Disclaimer: this video deals with sensitive topics such as Nazism, nationalism, the Holocaust, and other atrocities. If any of these topics disturb you on a deeper level, turn away now. Viewer discretion advised. The undeniable forms of fascism are often seen and shown throughout the world. Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, etc. This is often seen as the undeniable defining set of examples for fascism, but we have to understand why. Just why these rulers were fascist, and how that can apply to other situations. Well, the official defining factors of fascism are A. Extreme nationalism and hostility towards other groups and ethnicities. B. Hatred and disregard for democracy, often evolving into autocracy. And C. A social hierarchy. This definition can tell us quite a few interesting things. This means that fascism can be present in any economic system, as it is not defined as having economic impacts. This means a country with capitalism or communism could be fascist. To truly analyze this universal idea of the Axis powers in the Second World War being undoubtedly fascist, we have to look into whether or not they actually fit these definitions. The Axis powers are quite the scary boogeyman that are used against fascism, as they were clearly some of the most awful regimes to ever take place. Hitler is often seen as the worst person to ever disgrace the planet, and though there are many arguments about if he was the worst and if he killed more people than Stalin, Mao, or Genghis Khan, it is undeniable he is the mastermind of some of the worst atrocities to ever occur, such as the Holocaust, World War II, and Kristallnacht. The footage from these events alone are enough to send shivers down our spines, and they're disgusting on every level. Hitler did have a major nationalist agenda, with a huge hatred for the Jewish religion, but also gay, disabled, homeless, and Slavic people. He also disregarded democracy, but in a different way. In order to be elected, he followed the democratic order of the Weimar Republic, but then completely destroyed the government and instated a dictatorship. There was also a major social hierarchy in Nazi Germany, with those in the so-called master race being at the top, whereas others were thrown in concentration camps and murdered, tortured, or experimented on by the Third Reich. This is known as the Holocaust, the biggest and most awful act ever in recorded history in the minds of many, and it clearly closes the case on the third rule of this definition. This means Hitler, Mussolini, Hirohito, Franco, and many others that are often referred to as fascist are in fact part of this ideology. Those who have just now been proven as fascist leaders are not the only accused of such. There are a multitude of lesser-known movements that are often debated upon whether or not they are fascist, or simply not talked about much. Getulio Vargas was the president of Brazil from the start of the 30s until the end of World War II, and in the early 50s as well. He's often called fascist, but once again it must be understood if he actually fits the defining factors of the social system. Vargas ruled with undeniable power and threw dissidents in prison, sure, but he did legitimately allow a vote that would be classified as democratic, even opening the doors for women and those ages 18 and up to vote instead of 21 and up. This is a shocking showcase of respecting democracy, and while he did censor and rule more like an authoritarian, I think he does not in fact fit the second idea of fascism. He does, however, fit the first, as he was truly a nationalist and non-secularist who ruled with a clear connection to the Catholic Church and disliked most other groups despite his agnostic religious stance. He was often seen as sympathetic for the Axis powers, which is completely true. He did have a level of love for the fascism and the Axis, but he also sided with the Allies in most cases of trading and military strategy. Regardless of him fitting point A, he does not fit C, meaning he's not truly fascist. This is due to his regard for other minority groups and allowing them to vote alongside his economic policy, which was often seen as extremely egalitarian. Though he did rule in a way worth critiquing, due to his imprisoning of dissidents' belief in a level of Catholic supremacy and sympathy for the Axis, he can be officially ruled as not fascist, despite clearly being something similar socially. It is interesting, though, how Vargas is able to prove that fascism is possible in any economic system. Despite not instituting a full form of the system, he did start to within a more socialist economy rather than a capitalist one like Hitler's Germany. Very similar to Vargas, it is debated whether or not Huey Long was fascist. Former governor of Louisiana, he is often said to be the face of American fascism. The presence of American fascism has always been understated, but Huey Long was truly the exception to this. While certain pro-Nazi parties managed to even run third-party candidates, the most shocking event was the election of Governor Long, who, if we end up considering fascist, this would be the scariest reminder of how fascism can occur in America. Huey Long's beliefs were deeply rooted in strongman leadership as well as left-wing economic policy. He was critical of the New Deal policies, not for increasing government size like some, but for not doing enough in his opinion. As governor, he fought to increase spending for social programs, advocated for wealth redistribution, and also rehabilitative justice. He is often called fascism, though the only true proof of this was his want to consolidate power by intimidating those in Congress and firing those in his cabinet he felt weren't trustworthy. Everything I have read tells me that while he may have liked the idea of dictatorship, he was most likely not fascist and was overall economically left and socially left as well due to his crime and militarism policies.
Every man a king, for you can be a millionaire. That's fine. But there's something belonging to others. There's enough for all people to share. When it's sunny June and December too, or in the winter time or spring, there'll be peace without end, every neighbor a friend, with every man a king.
So, what is fascism really? Well, it's nationalism with a lack of regard for democracy, a heavy social hierarchy, and often nativist policies. Simple as that, but it is worth researching figures who are called fascist to find out if they really were. Yes, the Axis powers were, but Brazil under Vargas wasn't, and neither was Huey Long. With that being said, thank you for watching, be safe, and goodbye.